At first, I didn't actually want to hunt Unit 61. I was putting in for a different unit in Colorado. I think it was Unit 45. It was up around Leadville, and it took about 6 or 7 preference points. So I started saving up for that unit, and as I accumulated 6 points, it then took 8 points to get that tag, and then the next year it took 9 points, so I could never catch up to it. So I started looking at all the Colorado hunting statistics to find a better or another unit to hunt where it would take 8, 9, 10 points possibly. So I started researching online, and I came up with a handful of units, and Unit 61 was one of them. It had a really good success rate, and also it took about 9 or 10 points. So I decided after about 7 years of putting in for a tag, I started putting for Unit 61 instead. And I didn't know much about the unit, so I started doing some research into it, mostly Google searches, and I found that it's a pretty good trophy unit. It seemed like a lot of 300 plus inch bull elk are taken out of there every year. And then I ran into a video that Randy Newberg had put out of that unit, and he shot a great big bull there in 2016, and I was very interested in the unit after I saw that video. So at that point I had about 7 preference points, and it still wasn't enough. So I just started putting in for, you know, points in, well, that would have been 2018, 2019, 2020. And then I finally had 10 preference points. And so that's the year I was hoping I would actually get a tag. And sure enough, in 2021, I did get the tag. I still didn't know a lot about the unit, so I wanted to go over there and scout it out to try to figure out where to hunt. So Zach and I drove over there and just south of Grand Junction in September of this year, 2021. And we drove the entire unit just trying to figure out a good place to hunt. And one of the things I had done in watching that video that Randy Newberg put out is I tried to isolate what part of the unit it was he hunted. And so when I was there in that unit in September, I started scanning for some of that landscape, some of the terrain that I saw in his video. And down the middle section, I didn't see anything that was similar to it. So then we started looking more into the northern area of that unit, and sure enough, I started seeing some of the same type of cliff bands. And I had also done some research on Google Earth and just trying to do some e-scouting, trying to figure out what this unit is like. But definitely between driving the unit and looking at Google Earth, I had isolated it to the northern section of the unit. So we drove around, Zach and I did in September, drove around the northern section, and we still couldn't figure it out. We had a good idea of where to hunt, but we didn't know for sure. So prior to opening day, we had an idea of where to go, but still did not know exactly where. So we got up there Friday before the opener, and we went to the same area that Zach and I had gone in September. And we looked at some roads and drove into a few of them, and they were dead ends and it didn't really take us where we needed to go. And finally, just before dark, we found the right road, and it got us back there in the area that I knew was right. It was the same cliff bands, the same general area that Randy Newberg had hunted. And that's where all the big bulls were going to be in this unit, no doubt about it. So we knew we had to get back in there. So Saturday morning, we had a game plan. We knew where to be and how long it was going to take us to get in there. So we had left Grand Junction, I don't know, 4:30 in the morning, and we drove for about 2 hours before we finally got to the end of the road where the cliffs were. And I'll never forget, when I got out of the Jeep, very first thing I saw was a whole herd of bull elk, and I was really excited. But then I went out to the edge of the cliffs and looked down, and I didn't know how I would ever get a bull out of that country. It was so steep, so rugged, and it was going to be very difficult. But there were bulls. And so Saturday morning, I decided, that opening morning, I decided that we're going to go ahead, or I'm going to go ahead and head down that canyon and go after those bulls. And that was even going down that canyon was rough. It took a lot of energy to get to the bottom where the trail was at. The trail was about a good 600 vertical foot drop from where we parked down to this horse trail. And I knew I had to get down to that trail. And once I got down to the trail, it followed the ridge line, and it just steep off both sides. And so I got down to that trail. It took me almost an hour to get down to it because there was snow and I was slipping and sliding, and it was a real hard walk down. But I got down there, and I got within about 400 yards of those elk, and I started to glass them, and there wasn't any big bulls in the bunch, so it wasn't anything that I was interested in, especially being down that canyon. I wasn't going to shoot a raghorn bull. So I decided to go ahead and walk that trail, and I walked out there about a mile, and I didn't really see much more out there. So I turned around and came back, and then I did see a really nice bull down the bottom of this canyon, off to the south side, but it was too far down there and he disappeared. So I decided that, it was about noon at this point, I decided I better just head back to the Jeep. But I was not looking forward to that hike out of that canyon. I got to that cliff to start walking up, and it took me about an hour to climb up the 600 vertical feet. And when I got to the top, I told myself I'm never going down in that area again. It was just too difficult. 51 years old, and it about took everything I had out of me. Well, it's about noon. Been out elk hunting all morning. Walked to the bottom of canyon and heading back up right now. And This hike is about killing me. I don't know how many vertical feet I had to come back up, but a lot more than I ever want to ever do again. This might be where Randy shot his big bull, right down the side of this canyon. I want to think it's right down below there. That's my best guess, at least. Morning or afternoon at this point, I had pretty much told myself that that's impossible and I'm never going back down there. And so the next day, which would have been Sunday, we just drove the entire unit, or not the entire unit, but we drove about half the unit looking for some new areas. We really didn't see much of anything. Got off on some really bad roads and got stuck, and I think we saw a doe and saw no elk. It was pretty frustrating at this point because I knew where the elk were, but it was impossible. So that night, I started thinking about it more and more, and it took me 10 years to get this tag, and maybe once in a lifetime type hunt. And at that point, I told myself I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it. Something moving. Not everything is bedded yet. There'll still be out eating and stuff. Too much pressure. But it's good to know. What is that up there? What am I looking at? It's Sunday the 14th of November, and we just came up from that low country down there on this little narrow road right here. A lot of switchbacks. We gained a lot of altitude in a short period of time, so everything we're finding out that all the game is up on top. So we're done. We spent all this morning checking out all that low country, and saw one doe down there, and
few elk tracks, few deer tracks, but everyone we've talked to is saying the same thing. Everything's up on top, so that's where we're going to concentrate for the rest of the week, is up here on top.
Morning, we made a plan to go back out to that same place and walk down that canyon. And we got out there, and you know, it's amazing how we quickly forget how hard things are. You know, I mean, these big bulls down there, and that excited me, got the blood pumping, but it was going to be hard, and all it took was 24 hours, and I forgot just how hard it was. So Zach and I began to walk down that canyon, and we got down there through the oak brush and got down almost to the horse trail, and I spotted an elk bedded down out there under one of the juniper trees. And I told Zach that it has to be a big bull all by itself in the worst possible place you could ever imagine. And at this point, it was about 660 yards away, and it was too far for me to shoot. So I came up with a plan to get a lot closer. I was hoping to get within about 300 yards. And so we got down to the horse trail, and we walked around about a few hundred yards and came to another ridge, and we followed this ridge down to the end. And we got down to where it's just a sheer drop in the cliffs, and Zach spotted the bull. He had stood up because he knew we were there, of course. He had stood up, and so I told Zach to put the rangefinder on him, and he was at 468 yards. And I was thinking to myself, I really don't want to take a shot that long, but there was no way to get any closer. So I got the bipod on the rifle out and got a really good rest, and he was standing up, but he didn't act like he was going to go anywhere. So I took my time and got a good rest and held right at probably 30 inches high, and I squeezed that trigger, and I thought I missed because I didn't see the elk do anything. And he stood there for a few seconds, and then he began to run a little bit. And I was able to get one more shot off on him. And at this point, I thought I had missed, but then I saw the elk limping, so I knew I hit him. And then Zach even told me that he thought he saw the elk get hit maybe with the first or second shot. I can't remember. So I told Zach to turn around and head back up to the Jeep. That way, tell Grandpa to drive the Jeep around, because I'm going to head down. I'm not going to head back up. And I was going to head down to try and find this elk. And it took me, to cover that 468 yards, it took me over an hour, because it was just cliffs. And I had to find a way down where I wouldn't die. And so I got down to where I had shot him, or at him at least, and I didn't see any blood whatsoever. And I was pretty disappointed at this point, because I'm thinking maybe he was limping because of an old injury. Maybe I actually missed him. And so I found his track, and I figured if he was hit, he's going to go down the easiest way possible. So I found his track, and sure enough, it was going downhill. And it's going down this like wash. So I followed it for about 75 yards, maybe 100 yards, and there he was laying down. He wasn't quite dead yet. I had to finish him off. But at that point, I was pretty excited. I just shot the biggest bull of my life. Beautiful 6x6, 300 plus inch bull, a trophy elk, and I mean, it was just awesome. But I'll be honest with you, the excitement wore off pretty quickly when I realized where I was. Going up was just we're talking 1,500 vertical feet, cliff bands, impossible. Going down was at least, at that point I thought a mile, but it came out to be more like 3 mile hike to the nearest road, and through a lot of rugged country, steep drainages, lots of rock, oak brush, real thick oak brush, thorns that just cut you right up. So I realized I was in a pretty difficult place. But I put that out of my mind. I had a lot of work to do, so I started cutting him up. And it probably took 2 hours by myself to get them all quartered up and everything. And Zach and my dad had drove around to the bottom, and we had radios, so we were able to communicate at this point. But we didn't realize that our batteries and our radios were almost dead. And sure enough, they died. So I wasn't sure exactly where they were. They didn't know what my plan was. So I waited for a little while, got up in a high spot to see if they were going to start walking in or not. And I never saw them. So I went ahead and threw a quarter in my frame pack and got my rifle and a few other items and started hiking out. And it didn't take too long before I realized that this was going to be impossible. The oak brush was so thick. I was constantly having to get on my hands and knees to crawl through it. It was just very hard. And about 2 hours into it, I realized how much further it was. And I also realized that I'm not going to get out before dark. And so I decided to go ahead and hide my rifle and the meat and put a waypoint on my Onyx app on my phone where it was. And thank goodness I did that. I would have never found it. And I started hightailing it out of there. And it was still about a mile. And sure enough, I got out about a half an hour before dark.
Well, I hit a bull, a giant bull, right there, that little point right there. I was shooting from up there above those rocks, about 460 yards or so. I think I hit him with my first shot. I may have hit him with my last shot too. I'm hoping. If I did, then he didn't go very far. But thankfully there's a road. If you can see it out there, right there. It's still going to be quite a pack out, but a lot better than going back up that stuff. There's no way possible. So I'll check in once I get down below. Oh, that's where I was when I shot. That point right there, that's where we came down from this morning. Really steep. And he was just right up here, about another 100 yards. So hopefully he's laying there. Well, folks, I got him. Biggest bull of my life. He's still breathing a little bit, but I think it's more nerves. But yeah, he's huge. This is going to be quite the pack out of here. The road is down that way somewhere. And oh boy, it's going to take all day plus some to get him out of here. Oh, but oh man, what a bull. He's worth it. Wow. Whew. All right. Beautiful, beautiful bull. I'm really happy with this guy. I'm not really happy about the pack out. I know Zach and my dad are not going to be happy with the pack out either. At least there's not a lot of vertical, but it's going to be hard, really hard. I'm hoping to find a nice way off this ridge, and then there's a trail or a road, about 3 ridges over. It's still going to be a good mile hike, and hopefully we'll get about half of them out today, and then the other half out tomorrow, and then Zach can get his buck. This is going to be priority right now, getting him cleaned. And I tell you what, he's a tough bull. He did not want to die. Really tough bull. Pretty bull. I don't know how he will score. It doesn't really matter to me, but I love that 6 point. or whatever one they call it. It's just beautiful. It's going to be a gorgeous mount. I have no idea where I'm going to mount him at, but or put him, but he is gorgeous. Ow.
I'll be honest with you, that was nothing compared to going down.
I totally agree. Okay, got my phone, done. Bring some snacks. Oh yeah, you know, I'm gonna carry a water too. I got 2 waters in the back. Carry a water. All right, we'll be back.
Okay, have fun. Doug and Zach are headed out to get Doug's rifle and pack with some of the elk that he was trying to pack down from the top down here to the bottom. He figures about a mile out there. It might take a couple of hours. And then we'll head up and start packing that elk up that mountain. So it's going to be a fun day. Doug shot his bull right about there yesterday. And he tried to bring 1/4 down here to the bottom, but it turned into a real nightmare. So he even got laid on him, and he left that 1/4 in his rifle out over here in this country, about a mile out from here. And so first thing this morning we came up here, and Zach and Doug hiked out to where he left his rifle and his pack with the 1/4 in. They should be on their way back by now. I haven't heard anything on the radio, but they should be getting close to coming back. This is an old Jeep trail that goes down there, but it's closed off now, and it's just turned into a trail. As far as you can drive is right here where we're parked. So, since we're done here, getting this quarter out, we're headed back up to the top. I'll try to zoom in on about where we're going to go. Somewhere up there, I can't see in the viewfinder, but the radio TV tower is up there somewhere. That's where we'll park, is right at that tower. And him and Zach will go down and finish up cutting that bull up and try to get as much as they can packed up to the top today. Then tomorrow we'll come back up and get whatever's remaining. So anyway, we'll get her done. It's gonna be a nightmare pack for them, but they should be able to get it done. We'll see. Here comes Zach and Doug. They made it in less than 2 hours, so I'm happy about that. Well, you did it in a little less than 2 hours, so.
Feel how heavy that puppy is. Then we drove up to the top, and that took about 2 hours at least to drive around to the top. And Zach and I hiked back down those cliffs down to where the elk was. And I was hoping to get 1/4 and attempt to walk it up, because going up is only less than 1,000 yards, but it's 14 to 1,600 vertical feet, ascent. And so I thought maybe we can do it. And so we tried. I put a 1/4 in the pack frame, and we went about 200 yards, and I realized it's impossible. So we dumped it, and we hiked the rest of that way out and got out just before dark and about killed myself. That was the hardest climb of my life, and just about killed me. And so I didn't know what we were going to do at this point. And we went into Grand Junction, had some dinner, and I started calling outfitters, hoping maybe there's an outfitter that has horses that can help us out. And I called every outfitter in the area, and only one responded. And I told him the area of the unit that I had killed the bull, and he knew exactly where it was. And he told me to meet him at 10 o'clock the next morning at a certain trailhead, and that's what we did. We got there at 10 a.m. the next morning, and they were about 45 minutes late, but it was him and his daughter riding horses, and I had to guide them in or lead them in, and it was about a 3-mile walk in, and I had to go pretty quick. It was a tough hike, but we got up there, and we took the horses as high as we can take them. Then they got off, and we climbed the rest of the way, because it was a climb, quite a bit of a vertical climb, the last half mile or so. And we got up to the bull and got all the meat in the pack frames and got it back down to the horses. And it was a lot of work. It probably took 2 hours from the time we left the horses until the time we got back down to the horses with the meat in the head. And they led me out, and I had to try to keep up with those horses all the way out, and it was quite a hike. Again, another 3 miles. And it took about 5 hours total from the time they showed up until we got back to the Jeep. But I was sure thankful that they showed up, because without them, it would have been about impossible. Trying to go up. Yeah, that was not so hard. Coming down, I didn't know got down in that brush and I mean, I'm so cut up and beat up. I killed myself.
Yeah, I can't see them, but I think the horses are right in there. I saw 3, and I think there should have been 4. I'm hoping Zach caught up with them, but they hiked up. Doug's bull was right on top of that ridge right there. Hard to pinpoint. Yeah, the horses are right in there somewhere. And the elk is right up top of that ridge right there. I'm just glassing, and I saw him headed up there, but I only saw 3 people, so I'm not sure if Zach's with them or not. Doug hasn't turned his radio on, so I can't communicate, but I'll keep trying. I'll be back on.
There's one happy, unhappy customer right there.
Oh, correct.
Well, after 3 long days, here comes the elk. I bet Doug is just absolutely worn to a frazzle. Quite a sight. Boy, that rack is bigger than I thought it was. One nice elk. Well, now we can concentrate on Zachary's mule deer.
Yeah, you cat check, Zach. How far behind do you think you were at one time?
I have no idea.
No idea?
I just was on that.
Yeah, we were doing some time going out. Coming back too. Hindquarters are huge. Wow.
Sorry. Meant to grab the bag and grab one of the stuff.
Alright. Oh wow. We're gonna have to get that paracord out of there. It's in one of the packs. Huh?
Probably the one you originally took down there.
Yep, you got it. Torches are incredible. I'll go through all that.
That one's limping. He's been in a good fight. That's just like my forky. Looks just like that. Looks like they may have been fighting. Yeah, he's coming back. Maybe we'll get a fight here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly what started. No doubt about it.
He's not much more than, well, he's got 3 on that side.
All right.
I would be very watchful for a buck. Here comes some hunters.
What's that shooting?
Right there.
He's having a hard time.
He's standing.
He's having a hard time. There we go. He's gonna shoot. Got him!
He got him. Oh, there's another one.
Was it a big one?
Doe.
Oh.
Oh, another one. Doe.
All right, we're done. Very similar to the other one we saw.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gonna die quick.
Yeah, he's
Don't worry about him. Matter of fact, I think he's already dead.
I think he's dead too.
Just touch him with the rifle a little bit.
He was,
He's dead.
if his eyes are open and tongue's out, he's dead.
He's dead.
Yeah.
Sweet. Weird looking antlers up here.
I know it. They look just like the other one.
I'm telling you. All right, we can take him out whole. Dad, we don't get to quarter him. We'll put him in the back.
Yeah.
All right. You have one in the chamber?
We get a 3 on both sides.
Tongue out? Oh, yeah.
How come his eyes, what is that on his eye?
Oh, gross. Yeah. I don't know.
No idea.
Let's not get a picture of that side.
Yeah, keep that turned away.
Oh, I had to do that for a long time. All right, let me picture you guys.
Okay, what you want to do is pose him.